Greetings. Happy Saturday. I am Nicole Everett, the host of Conversations with Nicole, a talk show based in Tallahassee, Florida, focused on connecting the community through conversations. And we are celebrating today. You want to know what we're celebrating? We are celebrating the launch of Dr. Fanike's book, What the F is Your Problem? Becoming an Active Worker in Healing Your Trauma. So Dr. Fanike was on the show. It's been a few months ago now, but she talked around financial trauma, and she told me about the book, which of course the title was so intriguing. And so she said she wanted to do a book launch, and so she asked me if I would be a part of the celebration, and I so graciously offered. I'm super excited. The look, this is definitely a conversation piece. So, you all will find out why she chose this title. And I guess more importantly to me is the becoming an active worker in healing your trauma. So that part, we need to know all about. So before I introduce her, bring her on, I want to hear from you as I typically do. Let me know what city and state you are tuning in from. I have taken over Dr. Fanike's Facebook page. So for those of you who are like, what's going on? Look, y'all tag your friends, let them know they need to be on here because we're going to have an exciting 2 hours of talking about this book. We're gonna bring on people who are featured, women who are featured in the book. And so we are super excited to be here with you today. So I see folks chiming in. Hello, my friend Susan, all the way in Hampton, Virginia. Thank you for being here. We got Anna. So happy to be here and celebrate with all of you. Thank you, Anna. All right, Princess here in Tallahassee. Thank you, Princess, for being on. Yes, tell all the women folk in particular, y'all need to be on here. Tag some friends, share it, like it, comment. This is interactive. We want your questions, we want your comments. Because like I said, we have some super sisters on that will talk about their experience here. Oh my goodness, Anna says she's in Sweden. In Sweden. So we're international around here. I love it. Thank you, Anna, for being here. We appreciate it. So let me, while folks are coming on and while you all are liking and sharing, we are again live on Conversations with Nicole, YouTube and Facebook, and on Fanike's page on Facebook. While you all are chiming in and letting us know where you're from, I'm going to read just a little bit of Dr. Fanike's bio. This superwoman right here, she is the master healing alchemist, a doctor of behavioral health, licensed clinical social worker, transformational trauma specialist, master Reiki practitioner, amongst other things. She's going to tell you about who she is too. But she is also the author of What the F is Your Problem? Becoming an Active Worker and Healing Your Trauma. She released this in December, and we are actually celebrating the launch. Dr. Fanike leads women entrepreneurs on the path to recovering or removing rather mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual blockages, stopping them from living the lives they deserve. And these blockages are usually rooted in hurtful experiences in childhood and are keeping the women in cycles of negative thinking, limiting beliefs, and unhappiness. So we're about to break these chains today. So join me in welcoming Dr. Fanike.
Hi, everyone. Hi. Thank you so much for coming to celebrate with me. I have my wine. If you are not here, you want to go ahead and grab, go ahead.
Yes, I got mine too.
Cheers.
You ready? Cheers. Yes.
So if you don't have your wine, this is a party. This is a celebration. I am so elated that all of you are here. I saw that we have people from Sweden. We have people from Tallahassee. We have people from Atlanta. So hi, Kadisha. Hi, boo. So happy that all of you have come to support. Looking for questions, like Nicole said, want this to be interactive. Yes. Super excited. For those of you that do not know me, Nicole, she did a great job. And I'm actually having a party at my house. So yes, you hear some background noise. My baby may come in. My husband may come in. My kids may come in. Anna, you got to get your own wine, boo. I cannot get you in Sweden. But they may come in. And so it's going to be, we're having a party. For those of you that do not know me, I am Dr. Fanike. I am the Master Healing Alchemist. I am a licensed trauma therapist and an energy shifter. And so what that means is that I use all of these different modalities, including energy healing techniques with my Reiki. And then also I have spiritual training, and I combine all of that to help the clients that I work with to shift those energy blocks so that they are not having trouble in their relationships, in their business, in their finances, in their own personal development, in their social relationships, in the relationships with their self. And so my goal is to help them to move from being stuck to being open. And sometimes what that means is that, you have to get rid of a relationship, or it means that you have to exit a career, or it means that you have to get rid of some people that's in your circle because they're not helping you to move forward. And so I work with them. It is life-changing, it's transformational. And the goal is for them to move from thinking from a space of trauma or those trauma responses, right? And making those decisions from a clear mind, doing the things that they actually want to do, and living the lives that they want to live and that they deserve to live.
Love it. Yes. So Anna said, I have seen and experienced Faniki's work, and she is incredible. Lovely.
Thank you, Anna.
Yes. So tell us about this title. Like, it's so captivating, such a conversation starter. So let's talk about this title.
So what the F is your problem? Becoming an active worker in healing your trauma actually derived from, funny story, my husband and I were out, and we're in Atlanta. It's a lot of, Black people, and we're in a parking lot. I don't remember what store we were at or anything. And we're sitting in the parking lot. We're about to leave, and we're just kind of watching people as, they're walking by, and it's a lot of Black women. And we're looking at them, and he says first, he's like, gosh, like she looked like somebody just stole her bike, or she looked like somebody just, took her last meal, or, and so at first, like, we're cracking jokes and it's funny. And then it turns into a serious conversation. And the conversation shifts from it being funny to, as women, and as women in general, we just carry so much, right? We carry a lot of pressure. We carry, we're people pleasing. We sacrifice ourselves for our families. We're the ones that take care of everyone. We are, we're doing all of the things, right? And so as women, like, we take on the responsibility to just make sure everyone else is taken care of. And a lot of times what that does is we neglect ourselves in the process. And so in neglecting ourselves, right, and carrying that pain and carrying all that, and then you have the traumas that are on top of it, because somewhere in our lives, we were taught and socialized that that's okay. So we were taught that we are supposed to be the ones that sacrifice for everyone else, right, to make sure they're taken care of and not focus on ourselves. And so that's where the title of the book came from. And initially, the title was What the F is Her Problem? Becoming an active worker in healing your trauma. And then I changed it to What the F is Your Problem? Because men also carry trauma, right? And it may look differently, and it may be for different reasons, but they do carry it. And so, the book is applicable to men and women, although it is written from a female's perspective. And so all of the women that were interviewed in the book, there are no men that were interviewed. However, those feelings, those emotions, because my husband read it and he had the same response as my female readers, and he was like, wow, like this was deep, and, oh my gosh. And so, so it's applicable from both sides, men and women.
Wow. Yeah, no, I think that we don't recognize oftentimes the effect that trauma has on our lives, both male and female. And so it's good that, that he read it and he could relate to it. So yeah, I think that's powerful. That's powerful. So this is your first book, right?
It is. So I've been an author, a part of like other people's works and other people's books. But this is my actual first book written by myself.
Okay. And what was this experience like for you?
So I started in May, and the concept of the book kind of evolved. So I thought of writing a book years ago. And then, it just didn't feel right. I was like
Mhm.
kind of struggling with really, pinpointing what I wanted the book to be about. And so
Mhm.
I started the experience again in May, and I actually joined a writer's program. And I needed that because I am doing all the things. So, I'm a mompreneur. I am a wife. I am a, I'm a director at a school. I have like all these different pieces. And so I needed that guidance and I needed that structure. And so that was exactly what the program helped me with, was to say, hey, you need this first edit needs to be done here. And this, these are deadlines and these are the things. So it was that piece, the actual piece of writing it, but it was also extremely therapeutic. And so I
Mhm.
cried.
Mhm.
I cried, I cried a lot while writing it. And there were times when I was writing and my husband was there, and then I would have to remove myself
Mhm.
because I was going through like a healing moment, like in
Mhm.
writing. And so it was very purging. But the other thing is that once I started writing, I said, you know what? I'm just gonna put it all out there, right? Just do it
Yeah.
because it
Yeah.
was healing, right? Because that's another thing, right? So we hold on to stuff, right? And we just like we suppress it and just keep it inside.
Mhm.
And then we get to the energy part, and that's why I say I shift energy, because when we suppress it and we hold on to this stuff, what it does is it creates those energy blocks, right? And then the
Mhm.
energy block shows up mentally, physically, spiritually, financially. It shows up in our relationship. And so the only way to really heal it, first you have to acknowledge it. You have to be very clear and be very real with yourself. It's not about being real with anyone else, because when I was writing this, it was a conversation with me. It was me and God. That
Mhm.
was it.
Mhm.
Me and God, right? That was the conversation. And it was something I had to do. And I had to decide, like, hey, you know what? If you're going to do it, we're going to do it right. And we're going to like just go in, and I'm going to pour everything out there and then put it out there. And I did think about, people are going to read it. They're going to judge me. They're going to be like, oh my gosh, and that hasn't been the response at all. I've
Mhm.
gotten people that message me and they're like, girl, I'm crying. I can't make it past the first, I can't make it
Right.
past page 5. And I'm shedding tears, and oh my gosh. And someone called me immediately and she was like, I needed your book. And I didn't even know I needed your book. Um,
Wow.
this was the part of my life that I needed, and I had no clue. And
Mhm.
so it feels great to be that person to say, oh, wow, I'm affecting lives and I'm healing others by just telling my story.
Absolutely. So I think you said something that I tap into, or I talk about often, is that we all have gifts and talents that the world is waiting on, and we shouldn't be sitting on them, but we need to share them. So the world's been waiting on this book, okay, clearly, right? Because of the response. I just text the flyer about the launch, and someone said, I love the title.
Thank you so
I
much.
love the
Thank you so
title.
much.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah. So, I mean, did this feel kind of like your baby?
Um, in a sense,
Mhm.
because I definitely changed during the
Mm,
writing process. And
okay.
so I wrote for about 6 months, and I would go back and like
Mhm,
change stuff, and I would be like, I need to really give more. I need to be clearer, on this
mhm,
part. And so, for those that have read it, I talk about the abuse, the domestic violence in the home. And
mhm,
so I had to decide, how descriptive do I really want to be about that? And I wanted people to feel it, and I wanted people to get it. And initially, it was like a purging of just stuff, right? I'm just going to purge the trauma, purge the trauma, purge the trauma.
mhm,
And then when I met with one of my creative editors, and he asked me, what do you want people to walk away with? So they read it, but what do you want them to walk away with? And
mhm,
I was like, I want them to walk away with a sense of feeling empowered, that no matter what they have gone through, your past does not have to dictate your future. And I want them
mm,
to know that they can start the healing process themselves. It's really all about just making a choice to start the healing process. That's where it starts. And so, in a way, I would say yes. And the reason why is because I think about when I had my son, and I changed. I
mhm,
changed as a person, and this had the same impact on me as well, where I felt myself changing. Like I felt the process. So yes, yes, definitely.
I think that's powerful as well because, there's something about a made up mind. And when we decide to do a thing and put our energy and efforts towards that, that it changes us, you know, there's a transformation that takes place. So that's awesome. That's awesome that you experienced that. Now I know, this is a party, right? And
Oh
we
yeah.
got our wine, we got, some music going on and that sort of thing. But we are doing some giveaways, some
We
that sort of thing.
are.
So I know you had a contest that you were doing. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. So I have my 3 folks, and then what we need is we're gonna grab 3 listeners that.
Okay.
So I'll start. Do you want me to start with one of the people? So
Sure.
I did a giveaway contest on my Instagram and my Facebook. I posted and it said giveaway, 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 and there were some instructions. And you were supposed to leave a red heart below, and then you were supposed to tag 5 people, follow myself, and follow Conversations with Nicole. So the first person that actually did it and followed instructions were Michelle B. Mommy Works, MAMI underscore WORKS. Michelle Works. So Michelle Works will win a book and a workbook. So I'll be sending that to you, Michelle B. If you're on,
Right.
go ahead and drop us a comment and let us know that you're here.
Okay.
But
And it's
she,
Michelle B, you said?
Michelle B. Yes.
And what's her hashtag or her
It's
handle?
MAMI
Mhm.
underscore works with an S.
Okay, got it. I'm gonna just put it up so that we can see it.
All right.
All right, Michelle.
Congratulations.
Yes, yay.
So
All
she'll
right.
get a book and a workbook. So she'll receive those from me. But thank you so much for participating and for, engaging in the process. Thank you so much.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. So you mentioned following, so we definitely want folks to follow. Dr. Fanike has her Instagram handle on, which is at Dr. Fanike up as well. So by all means, please follow her. She has some great content. She's doing some great and wonderful things. So yes. All right. So we got our first winner today. That's great. That's great. That's great.
Yay! I'm gonna drink to that.
Mm-hmm. Cheers. 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 Now, you had 4 women that were included in the book. And they'll be on soon. Sakari, Rashida, and Zinga and Omi. Now, what was that like in terms of getting their perspective on the traumas that they had gone through and getting those stories from them and you putting that in the book?
So they are 4 of the women, but there are others. And so the way that I kind of identified the women was I had an outline, and I had an outline of what traumas I want to look at as we are, as I'm writing this. And so there is grief and loss trauma. So someone discusses how she lost her dad, went through a divorce at the same time, found out that she could possibly have cancer, found out her mom, like it was like that. And then it's also, that acute trauma where someone, being a woman and just thinking she could balance all the stuff and, had to take like this national big exam and fails the exam. And it wakes her up like, okay. And she like goes through like a whole, process, but it was traumatic for her because she thought, I could do everything. And then, it's a realization. And how many of us have had that moment, where it's like, you know what, I'm overwhelmed and and it may be time for me to say no to something or, draw a boundary. But that, and then there's, birth loss traumas. And so a woman talks about, having several miscarriages, and someone else talks about, infidelity. Someone else talks about being in an abusive relationship. So it varies in, the types of traumas that the book discusses. The women were women that I was already familiar with in some way. So either I had worked with them, or they have been a client of mine, or they've been, or they're a friend or a sister friend,
Mhm.
in some way. And so when I got to each particular chapter and I knew I want to talk about this, or I want to pull this in, I reached out to them. And out of all the women that I asked, I probably got one person that said, "Hey, I'm not comfortable with doing it." One of the women I interviewed, we were on vacation in Mexico.
Okay.
And, we're on vacation and I'm like, "Hey, I want to interview you." And she was like, "Okay." And, we're on vacation and we go downstairs and we do the interview, and, and we're good. Um,
Okay.
and so first of all, I'm so super grateful, like so super grateful, because I'm very clear on one, this is not just a conversation that's going to stay between me and them. This
Mhm.
conversation that we had now is in books. And
Right.
what we know about books is that they don't go anywhere. So 40, 50, 60, 70 years later,
Right.
someone could pick up my book and
Mhm.
their words, their story is in that book. And
Indeed.
so super grateful because they, one, trusted me with their
Mhm.
words. And then two, were open and vulnerable enough to share, their story. Um,
Absolutely.
so the whole process for me has been incredible because, I'm a girl from Brooklyn, and, girl from Brooklyn, single parent
DK
household.
in the house.
Hey, hey, hey. Single parent household. My mom, eighth grade education, and but she harped on education, education, education. Go to school. You're
Mhm.
gonna go to school. Do more than me. She constantly told us, like, that was a message. Do more than I did. Don't, my mother was not one that encouraged us to be like her. She was a person that said, I want you to be greater than me.
Mhm.
And so she produced myself, she produced my sister, and she produced my brother, and we're all different in our own rights, but we all have similar qualities. And so very driven, very,
Mhm.
my sister and I are both entrepreneurs, and we very, just she produced these children, though, with that are full of resilience. And so I grew up there, left Brooklyn at 17, moved here to Atlanta, and with my sisters, and haven't left, and really kind of carved my own path, and figured out, this is what I want to do. And at a younger age was really able to determine what my purpose was. And
Mhm.
so followed that, just
Mhm.
I'm gonna follow it. But just the pieces in my life and the way that things have really, worked out and flowed, nothing but, divine intervention. There's really no other way to say it. From my dad, saying he was coming back to kill my mom, and then him dying,
Mm.
leaving his apartment and having a heart attack on the stairs. And they found him with a weapon on him. So I
Mm.
definitely think that he planned to, follow through with his words. And even that, for me, I didn't realize it until an adult. I didn't really come to terms with it until I was an adult. But again, that's a part of divine intervention, because
Mhm.
if he would have been able to follow through, my mom would probably be dead. He would probably be in prison or on the
Mhm.
run somewhere or dead.
Yeah.
And then where would we be? And so
Right.
it's, again, I had to come to terms with it after I was able to move beyond, and forgive him, because there was a lot of abandonment and
Mhm.
anger and resentment that was tied to that whole situation. And so that was a part of my healing. And so I wanted to share that, because a lot of times what happens is we can be so caught and stuck in the emotion of what has happened that we can't take a step back and look at it from a bigger picture. And so now a large part of my healing is always looking for the lessons. And so whenever
Mm.
there's an interaction, whenever, something happens, whether it's something that I wanted to happen, I try not to be tied to the outcome of the
Mhm.
situation, because when you get tied to the outcome, that's when the emotion comes in. But if you understand that, hey, sometimes things are going to happen in your life, and they're not going to happen always the way that you want them to, but they're going to happen the way that they need to happen. and you can kind of pull yourself back from the actual outcome of a situation, it allows you to receive more than probably what you could have ever imagined. Because, we think it's a tunnel vision, and so sometimes we have to pull ourselves back and say, all right, I'm just going to surrender and let's see what happens, right? I'm just going to go with this flow. And so that's where the spiritual energetic piece kind of ties into my work, where I work with my clients on, you got to stop resisting, right? Because there's change. You're changing, you're moving. Me coming into your life, period, is going to cause change, because that's just my energy, period. That's just who I am.
Yes.
But you cannot be resistant to the change. You got to let it flow, because what you're wanting, and pretty much is all control, and when we pull back the idea that we have to control every situation, it allows for the flow to happen. It allows for you to receive. It allows for the abundance. It allows for the ease, and I'm not saying that you're not going to have the emotions. Of course you're going to have the emotions, but experience them, own them, experience them, take them. I have days where I'm like, man, I'm good. I don't want to do this today. I don't want to adult today. Right.
Right. Right.
I don't want to be an adult today. Right. I don't want to take any other responsibility. I don't want to do any of it. But, and so I sit in it, I'm like, okay, I'm going to own it. No problem. I'm going to hold on to it. But then I look for the lesson. What is the lesson out of it? Because there's always a lesson, and it's bigger than us. And so if we can kind of work on allowing ourselves to let go of the outcome, because that's what keeps us stuck. No, I want it this way. But what if, right? Just what if I'm building a business and I'm saying, I want to make $100,000 in my business this year, right? But what if, right? What if when we tie in, God, the ancestors, the spirits, all of those energies, what if they're like, no, I want you to make $500,000 this year, but my vision is so narrow, right? I'm stuck on the 100,000, and I won't allow myself to expand and allow myself to go where I need to go, right? So sometimes you got to pull yourself back and say, you know what? Let me just be open to how this happened. And so that's been a large part of my healing, is being able to say, you know what? I'm going to try this. I'm going to do this. We're going to see what happens. And, go from there. I remember starting college, and in the state of Georgia, you have to be a resident for 1 year, right? Before you can get in-state tuition fees. And so coming in from New York, I was out of state. But like I told you guys, I left, moved here when I was 17, moved here with my sisters. And my mom was pretty much like, I'll sign whatever you need me to sign so that you can, do this, because she's never been to college. So she was like, I can't really help you. When it comes to this, she was like, you're going to have to do this, figure this out on your own. And so I remember after 6 months of living here, going into the office of the people that were responsible for granting the in-state tuition, and, going in, and I've always been great with this, right? That energy, picking up on people, and a woman, like, she has pictures on her desk, and, we start talking about her granddaughter, and, she's telling me troubles that she's having, and, all this stuff. And by the end of that conversation, that woman said, I'm going to give you in-state tuition early.
Wow.
And so for me, it was like, this is, when I look back on my life, there's been those moments that it's not huge. And that's why I tell people, you don't need huge wins. It's the small wins, right? It's those really, really small wins. And if you think back to, I had a car accident and I wasn't hurt, I walked away from, that's a win. We don't think about that. Your wins don't have to be big, but if you can really start to really look back at your life and really be grateful for those small wins, right? And then they start to add up, and you're like, you know what? I may be a little more blessed than I may be thinking I am right now, And I see Jemiah put superpower, right? And part of the superpower is trusting yourself, right? Trusting yourself, but also being able to surrender in a spiritual space and understand that everything is working in your favor. Even when you do not, again, you cannot see the outcome, right? That you're wanting to happen.
Yes, even when it might look negative, or what we may perceive as negative. I mean, you said a whole lot in this, these past couple of minutes. I mean, about surrendering. And to me, that's like being vulnerable, because like you said, we all want to have control. and this world is very focused on outcomes. So, we may be very outcome driven on our job, looking at the numbers and that sort of thing, but you know, the rest of our lives don't really work like that.
But even in our relationships with people,
Mhm.
we're very outcome driven. Like we want to know what's going to happen. Like what is this going to look like, and what's going to happen? And I see even like a lot of women when they with dating.
Mhm.
Are we going to get married? Is he ready to get married? I want to have kids. Sis, chill,
Right.
chill, right? Because
Right.
at the end of the day, you might not even want to be stuck with him. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mhm.
that's just the reality of the situation, right?
Mhm.
And I know because you want an outcome, and your outcome is I want to be married, I want to have kids, right? But let's not rush this thing, right? Let's not. I've done that before. Let's not do that,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And it was strictly me being impatient and saying, you know what, I'm 30 something. Let me just go ahead and make it happen.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Knowing that it was horrible, knowing,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Knowing the outcome was going to be, I already knew. But the point
Mhm.
is, because I was tied to an outcome, right? I sacrificed and just didn't want to be patient. And so forced something that I knew was going to end up horrible.
Mhm.
And that's what we do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Hey, Jenny. Jenny is here in Tallahassee. She said, accepting the answer may look differently than what we were hoping for.
Exactly. You
Mhm.
are right. Correct. Correct.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Absolutely. Thank you for that point. All right. Well, our first special guest is here. So
Yay! Who is it? I don't even know.
it is Sakari.
Oh,
Sakari.
Hi.
Well,
hi. Oh, I love
Greetings.
that chair.
Thank you. I got it in
yes,
Ghana.
I'm gonna come sit on it.
Come on, come through.
Hey, boo, you
indeed,
look
indeed.
beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. I've just been sitting here absorbing all of the power and energy and medicine that you've been dropping this morning. So thank you already.
Thank you,
Nice.
Donna. Thank
Yes,
you.
thanks for being with us. So, Sakari, tell the viewers a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So greetings, everyone. My name is Sakari. I am based in Atlanta, Georgia. Um, Lands of the Cherokee and Muskogee tribes. I am a pediatric nurse practitioner. I'm also dual certified in psychiatry and mental health. So that's the role that I'm currently in now, working with children, adolescents, and young adults dealing with mental illness. In addition to that, I am a yoga and meditation instructor and offer mindfulness based psychotherapy. So, Dr. Fanike-Kiara, our paths intertwined in a lot of different ways. I don't know if she shared, but I have known this amazing, powerful woman for over 20 years. And I know you're thinking, like, how? Like, how is that
Yes,
even a
I,
thing?
I
But
am
like,
thinking
really,
how because you look 20 yourself.
like, I've known her since birth. No, seriously.
I
But yeah,
believe
we've
it.
been in each other's lives for 20 years. And so I'm just really honored to be here. I'm excited to be witnessing this unfolding and happy to be in conversation with y'all today. So thanks so much, Nicole, for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you for being here. So we just want to kind of talk openly about the
Yeah.
book and your experience with sharing your story with Dr. Fanike. So how was that for you?
You know, Dr. Fanike is someone, like I said, that I've known for a really long time. So it didn't cross my mind for a moment to be hesitant or nervous or anxious at all about sharing my story with her. Uh, Sharing with her and talking with her felt very conversational and very much so like being in a safe space. I knew that I would be held. I knew that I wouldn't be judged. And I knew that most importantly, that her work, my contribution to the work would be able to help others in their wellness journeys. And so ultimately, um, it felt good.
I love how you said that. I knew that I would be held. That is beautiful. That passion, that empathy, that love. That I love that. I love that. So, without giving the book away, just tell us a little bit about your contribution in terms of your, the not necessarily the trauma that you experienced, but to the extent that you're comfortable sharing some of that, but just the whole, like, to me, what's fascinating is the becoming an active worker in healing your trauma, right? So kind of how that kind of shows up for you as well. And I know you do this work, so, but the counselor needs a counselor, right? The
Absolutely.
therapist needs a therapist. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, very true. I think you make a really important point in that it's easy to come to the table sometimes and think or say, "Oh, I do this. I'm an expert of this. I'm a professional in this." But the true testament to being able to help others is your willingness to take a look at yourself and your willingness to do your own work.
Yeah.
And so I've never thought like, "Oh, I don't have anything to share. Like, I have no stories for you." I'm like, "No, how much time do you have?" And what I shared with Dr. Fanike is a little bit about my experience accepting and moving through failure and disappointment. In this country, particularly as BIPOC, we are often tied to our productivity in terms of like our value and our worth, right? And so I've always been what I consider to be a high achiever, right? I've always really prided myself on like how full my calendar is and how many things I'm able to accomplish in a day or in a moment. And I was working really, really hard towards something, like really hard towards something, only to not be successful in it. And it really just took the wind out of my sails. I don't know if anybody can relate to this, but like, it's a beautiful thing to have a tribe and it's a wonderful thing to have a support system, but it can also be difficult when like your support system knows that like you have a thing happening and then it doesn't happen, right? So inside of my own disappointment, I had to navigate sharing my disappointment, sharing my failure with my community, with folks who maybe had only particularly seen me like in a particular light. Like, how do you face the understanding that like, oh, like my loved ones, my friends, my family, they might see me like as less than like whatever it is I've like imagined or the story that I've like told myself that I am in the world, right? And so what I learned through that process is that failure is proof that you're trying, right? Mistakes are evidence that you are trying. And so not only was I able to move through that experience, I actually like found myself empowered to share the story, which felt like a complete 180, y'all, because there was a point in time where I just associated so much shame and grief and sadness around the loss that I wasn't telling anybody. Like my wife was the only one who knew, right? And so it was just important to be able to understand and accept that like we are not perfection, we are works in progress. And it's really important to learn to love ourselves exactly where we are, to not give up on ourselves, and not to feel that one failure, one setback, 4 failures, 4 setbacks are the definition of you, right? You can move past and through and beyond anything. And like Dr. Fanike said, sometimes what we are envisioning for ourselves is not ultimately what the creator, what the universe, what our ancestors want for us. And so sometimes those disappointments, those failures, those doors closing can be like, the universe's way of being like, I'm going to redirect you. Like, I know you got that tunnel vision. I know you set on walking through door A, but like, now really what you need to do is go through door C, right? And we're going to keep trying. We're going to keep redirecting you, And so just learning to sit in the discomfort is a huge part of your healing. It's a huge part of healing. What you resist typically is what you draw to you even more, right? So a huge piece of your healing and doing your work and doing my work is accepting myself where I am and accepting the good with the bad, recognizing that like no state is temporary, right? No state is permanent. Highs are temporary, the lows are temporary, everything in between is temporary too, right? So keep one foot in front of the other and find safe places to share and express your stories.
Absolutely.
You see why I had her?
I do. I absolutely do.
It's incredible, right? It's incredible. So the interesting part about this also that I did not mention is a lot of the women that I interviewed in the book have been a part of my life for a really long time. So they've seen my healing process, right? So they met me when there were so many, different broken pieces. And, Sakari will tell you, I was very angry is not, I was very reactive when she met me. I was a lot more reactive when we met. And so that's also, I think, a beautiful part about this is that, and then I've been able to see their progress and their growth and the things that they've gone through. So it was just very, I think, healing in so many different ways for a lot of us, because I don't know how many people Sakari had actually shared, her story with before, I interviewed her. And so I'm just so grateful and so thankful.
Awesome. Yeah, no. Oh, again, you also have shared a lot, which if we had more time, would definitely love to unfold some more of that or flesh some more of that out. But all really great points, and just as Jenny talked about, just reiterating your point about learning to sit in the discomfort. And I think that is something that we are often challenged with because we don't want to be uncomfortable. Yeah. And so we do things to soothe the discomfort. We overeat, we overdrink, we whatever. Right. We self-medicate, right?
Oversex, overspend, Solange hit it dead on when she made, Cranes in the Sky. That song is so real. It's so real. Yeah.
So yeah, learning to sit in the discomfort, and I think balance with I hate to use the term negative and positive, but what we perceive as negative, what we perceive as positive, having some balance as it relates to that. Like something that's negative is not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. How do you manage that, right?
Yeah.
Girl, this chat is popping off. I'm sorry. The chat is popping off. Does anyone have any questions for Sakari?
Yeah, for sure. Let's hear them. So if you have any questions, by all means, please let us know in the comments. Let us know. So Sakari, the becoming an active worker, healing your trauma, to me that's like a day-by-day thing, right? It's not like it's a one and done, but it's something that you are continuing to work on. Is there something that you have done intentionally to work on that for yourself?
Well, I think, depending on what you're dealing with, sometimes taking an active role in your healing can be like a moment to moment thing, right? Like sometimes day to day feels like too big. Like, let me just get to like 12:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right? Depending on what you're going through.
Right.
But I think for my own personal practices, what has really helped me feel grounded, helped me cultivate courage, and helped me feel present is my meditation practice. So I became a yoga and meditation teacher by way of Sacred Chill West under the lineage of Octavia Rahim and Meryl Arnett. And when I took my teacher training, I was very clear that like, I'm not going to teach. I'm just doing this to deepen my practice. I'm just doing this for myself. And I learned so much about myself. I learned so much about the mind and body connection. And I also learned about the power of healing in community, which is why I really love being a part of something like this. We heal in community. And I think that really diving into my practice privately and in community has really helped to support my wellness journey. It's opened so many personal and professional doors, and again has really helped me cultivate a sense of safety, a sense of being courageous, a sense of being present and aware, which just informs all of my decisions, all of my relationships. It just informs the way I show up and move through the world. So for that, I'm really grateful.
Love it.
So we got some questions in the chat.
I see.
Okay.
All right. So what are some ways that you can start active healing is one.
Are these questions for me?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, just making sure. I think some ways that you can start healing is, well, number one is getting still.
Mm.
Right. And so we named, cranes in the sky and a lot of the ways that we distract ourselves from our challenges and our opportunities. And a lot of times the things that we're doing are just ways, they're just distractions, right? Our calendars are way too full. We've got way too many obligations. We prioritize other people's needs and wellness over our own. And a lot of times, this is just a way to avoid sitting with ourselves. So one way, and I'm not saying like, well, just sit down. Like I know number one that it's not easy, and I know that number two, it could really you can use some guidance in that type of practice. But a way to really start healing is going inward, taking a look within, which you can only do when you press pause, right? So when you start to cancel out some of those distractions, when you start to say no instead of saying yes, when you start to prioritize your own self-care, prioritize downtime, prioritize minimizing screen time, just getting connected with ourselves is like, I think, one of the most important ways to start.
Okay.
And then I also think through that process, you will begin to be more aware of what makes you feel grounded, of what supports your wellness, right? So I really find that I enjoy drawing, right? It sometimes after my meditation practice, if I don't necessarily feel like writing out a narrative, I might just pick up some crayons or color pencils and just draw an expression of what I've experienced.
Love it.
I would never have even figured out that that was a way that I like to express if I hadn't taken the time to like sit down and see what felt good, to see what felt natural, to see what feels organic. And so I think out of your own stillness practice, you will be able to become more aware of the things that feel good and supporting your healing. I know for me personally, being outdoors is like the ultimate sanctuary for me, right? So whenever I can, I prioritize getting a hike. And if I can't go for a hike, even if it's just stepping out into my backyard, right? So not neglecting or taking or like prioritizing other things, like just making time and prioritizing what I know is going to set me up to be the best me, to be the best sister friend, the best wife, the best mother, so forth and so on.
Love it. So we got a couple more questions.
Okay, I'll try to keep my answers more brief.
I was going to say one more question, and then we can kind of take the rest and take it to the other. So the question that I do want to ask her, I think this one is really specific to you. How did you get to the point where you were not, I think that's supposed to say, not basing your worth on your productivity to then just being comfortable with doing less? We might have like a minute.
Ooh, Jemiah, like, girl, there's so much in your question that's tied to like white supremacy and capitalism, and just the nuance of being a person of color in this country. But in the 30 seconds I have left, I will just say that before I go to work, before I get a paycheck, before I do anything that yields me what I consider to be like a profit, and we're talking about monetary, right? I look at what feels good for me first, right? If I name all the things that make me feel good, all the things that make me a good sister, all the things that make me proud to be a wife or a friend, none of them are tied to like what I do to earn money. So I think starting with just making a list. Make a list of like what's dope about you, right? And your work could be on that list, but I guarantee you that it's not going to be the only thing. You probably won't name all your degrees, right? When I sit down and make the list, I'm not thinking about them degrees now. Student loans are a real thing, so they're on my mind. But when I'm thinking about the things that sustain me spiritually, emotionally, mentally, it's the fact that I like spending time with my family. It's the fact that, if I really wanted to, I could paint an amazing picture. If I wanted to, or when I show up, I'm a really good friend and I am a really good listener, right? Anybody who shares a secret with me, they know it's staying with me. I'm the vault. Like these are the kinds of things where you just start to think about what makes you an amazing human, will reinforce this understanding that what makes you dope is not tied to like your bank account. It's not tied to your degrees. It's not tied to the university that you went to or your title. Again, because most of these things, if not all of these things, they're temporary, right? So we got to let go, and we've got to like stop clinging to what like the country, society, whoever. We got to stop clinging to these things that other people tell us are important when they're not true and really like core pieces and parts of our character.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I don't know, that was hard to answer in 30 seconds.
It was, but you did great. You did great, Sakari. Thank you so much
Thank you,
for
sis.
your
Of
time today.
course. Love you.
Love you too.
Yes. All right. Take care.
Bye, everyone. So great to
Bye.
share this with y'all. Thank you.
Indeed. And we still having a party, so listen.
Go drink your
Hey.
wine. I'm out. Nicole, I'm
Salute,
busy. I gotta
salute.
get
Oh, you need
Cheers.
to replenish. Okay, gotcha.
I'm being
All
nice
right,
and
all
busy by
right.
the time we done.
Indeed. All right. Wow. Wonderful. 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 Yeah, she was great.
I know. You gotta have her on your show.
Yeah, I do. I
Yeah.
was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Glad I got to know. So, anywho, our next special guest has been sitting back here so patiently waiting. So, our sister Rashida, welcome.
Hi, darling.
How are you ladies doing? It's been such a great conversation. I've been really taking it all in. It's beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. So, Rashida, tell us a little bit about you.
I'll start with knowing Dr. Fanike. I mean, I love her. She's been my therapist for years now. My first therapist down here, first woman of color therapist, and I'm just so grateful for her. But I'm a visual artist. I'm a designer, a motion graphic designer, life coachy. I've done so much stuff, but right now I'm just a painter, and I am a designer for AT&T. I'm a senior editor.
Okay, wonderful. Well, we are so glad that you are here. So we've been talking about the book.
Yeah.
And I'm curious about what this experience has been like for you in terms of sharing your story and it being in the book. So
yeah, it's been very healing. I've been an active worker in healing my trauma. I want to say since I was 18 years old. My whole, growing up, being a product of the 80s crack epidemic, it was very big in my not really honoring myself or loving myself. So I constantly did that work, and I did that through art. I did that through doing affirmations and, just like the other young lady said, meditation and all those things. So I've been able to really actively work on my trauma probably for the last 20 years, and recognizing when it shows up, and always kind of checking in to say, okay, this is from that. I was in foster care, all the things that come with being a baby in the 80s. So, yeah. So, just wanted to really be in the book to really show people that being someone that came from foster care, being a Black woman, you can exceed, you can push forward, you can do what you want to do. And all those things don't have to define you. They may show up, but you're all, being able to say, I can check in and say, okay, that isn't how I'm operating. I'm operating from a highest version of myself,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
No, that's all good stuff. So I'm curious as to what the work looks like for you outside of going to counseling and therapy. What does it look like for you?
Well, I have a really strong sister circle, which is really important to me. I poured into my friends, coming from, just a home that wasn't really honoring words, and, my family did the best they could. But ultimately, my process is having such a strong network of, once again, sister friends, but also I do my yoga. I also I listen to a law of attraction person that really, really aligns to me. And it's really about feeling good. It's like really checking in, like I said, moment by moment of like, does this feel good? You know, just really being conscious of my like feelings, because for a long time people say, oh, that's just your feelings, don't worry about your feelings, you know. Um and you know, just invalidate like your feelings. And
Mhm.
you know, if you don't operate from a feeling good place, it doesn't work, you know. Like really checking in moment by moment, does this make me
Mhm.
feel good, you know. And that's really been my work, you know, recently, in the last years or two, you know. Just in through that I was able to, you know, meet my fiance, and you know, we're getting married. It's like a whole different world of choosing joy every moment, and
Mm.
honoring myself in a way that like I get to feel joy. Like I
Wow.
deserve to feel joy in this lifetime, and being like unapologetic about that.
Yes, yes, I love it. I love that. You do get to choose joy. Wow. You were talking about feelings, and I've not too long ago took a nonviolent communication class, and it was really kind of brought out how we tend to put thoughts and feelings together. But
Mhm.
I think if we can get real clear about what we're feeling, and you know, there differentiations between feelings, but sometimes we kind of just say, "Oh, I'm angry," or but maybe I am, irritable, or I'm frustrated, or maybe there's some other nuances to it. So I'm just glad to hear you say that. So
Yeah.
I got yeah, I got a lot of
Like
thoughts on
I go
that.
so deep with it. I go so deep with it. If I'm like, I am like consciously focusing on my joy, I'm either watching something funny, or you know,
Mhm.
I'm turning off TVs. Like I'm like, it's so in tune now that
Mm.
like, oh, that doesn't make me feel good. Even in conversations with friends, you
Mhm.
know, it's like, oh, if you're saying something that is from a gossip place, or you know, about the world and news, and it really triggers like me not feeling good, I intentionally try to change the subject to something that feels good, because we are in control of every moment of our lives, you know. So
Mhm.
you know, being victims of things is a choice. I mean, not to say it's a choice, but in your mental state you get to choose to say, okay, I honor myself in this moment, and I'm not going to allow that to penetrate me, regardless of it's a friend or a husband, or no. Like I will take a nap and then get back to revisit, you know, and come from a different place. So yeah.
Yes, I love that. Honoring myself in that moment. That is so good.
Yeah.
So, so good. So we did have some questions from
Mhm.
with
Right.
Sakara. So I want to go back and address some of the questions there. So Kiana asked, is it hard to break chains with people who may be responsible for your trauma?
Ooh. Um, well, that's a great, you know, I'm going to use it in my own context, you know, in terms of like my parents. Yes, I can hold them to the past, you know, and be really angry, but you know, people did the best they could. And but in the moment, like being continuously someone who hurts me gets to not happen. So I just, for a small example, and I'm willing to share this. Like my dad is such a, I love my dad, um, but you know, my voice was stunted for a long time because he was very angry, or disciplinary, and I was very afraid of him at that time.
Mhm.
And you know, I have to now, moving forward, you know, I create those boundaries with him, and I love him very much, but he doesn't get to yell in my house about anything to
Mhm.
anyone.
Right.
So that just doesn't work for me and my
Mhm.
space and my healing. your temper or anything, and he still has some of these traits, but he knows that that doesn't work for me, and it really, just I really broke down from like and he just doesn't know better. I mean, I don't want to invalidate, right? His, he gets to know, because he has daughters. But me, I think I'm a stand that he knows that that doesn't work, and he's conscious of it now. So how it has affected my trauma in the past, I got to communicate that to him, and now moving forward in our relationship, he knows how to check it.
Mm-hmm. Right. I think that speaks to the whole idea that we teach people how to treat us.
Definitely.
Right? Even our parents. And I think that my sister's actually in the comments, but within the last couple of years, my relationship with my mom has changed. And it's changed because I've started drawing these boundaries and really being, assertive and being clear with her when she says something that hurts my feelings, or she says something that may trigger, something for me. And I remember my husband, last time we went, he said to me, you're different when you're around your mom. And I hadn't even realized it. And he said you act, he said you get on, like I get on edge, and I'm very, touchy, and I become very, sensitive. And a lot of that is based in, growing up in a household where there is, that verbal abuse, that, talking down to you, that, those setting those expectations, those, those different parts. And now, I'm very clear. And I remember having my son and being very protective of him around her, because I didn't want her to do the same things to him. And so I had to check her, a couple of times, like, don't talk to him like that. And, he's also, my son is very, even, at such a young age, he's very receptive to energy, like extremely receptive. And so he would, like, when she would call, he would like hide, he would hide behind us. He wouldn't talk to her, and I told her, I said, when you start speaking nice to him, then he will be more friendly. And she listened. And so then when she started calling, she'd be like, hi, how you doing? And guess what? He started talking to her. He started interacting with her. He started, kissing her on the screen. But before that, he was like, I'm not fooling with her, because her energy was off. And I was like, you can't do that. Plus, I just don't want him being raised. And so for me, it was, we have to break that generational curse now. Like, it stops with me and my sister and my brother. It doesn't go beyond that. And so, my sister is very intentional with her children. And I'm very extremely intentional with my children. Like, no. You will not, you will not talk to him like that, because I'm raising him from young to be very clear about who he is, what he tolerates, and drawing those boundaries. And so I'm not that parent to say, oh, you're around family, go hug them. No, you don't want to hug them? No problem. Cool. They probably got something going on, and I don't want you hugging them anyway. Yeah. So it's okay. So again, like that generational trauma, it stops with me and just making that choice. So I'm glad that Rashida, discussed that, setting those boundaries sometimes even with your parents is extremely necessary.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great points. Well, Rashida, our time has come and gone already. I can't believe it. It goes by real fast, don't it?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really honored. Like, I mean, this is the type of conversations we want to have, and we want to be a part of this work, because, there's so much in your everyday that you're not being present to, and doing this work with sisters like you ladies, is important, because you just really know when it's going to show up again. So just having these dialogues is very important. So yeah,
absolutely. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate
it. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. All right, Fanike, you muted.
I was gonna say, do you want to do a giveaway real quick?
We need to. I mean, we're running a little behind, but I think
it's on you to pick one of
your. I think our special guest can hang out just a little bit longer. I see him behind stage.
There. Okay.
Yeah. All right, so let's do another giveaway.
It's on you now. You have to pick one.
Me?
It's on you.
Okay.
I'm writing. I'm keeping track of who.
Let me see. All right. I'm gonna be easy. Who wants a book? Raise your hand.
Paula has been very active.
Paula has been active.
Mhm.
Okay. All right.
And Anna has been very active.
Uh-huh.
Jenny. Well,
Jenny.
everyone's been really active. So
All right. Okay.
pick and
So
choose.
put a hand up. The first person that I see in the comments, put your hand up if you want a book. I'll call them out. Look. There's a little bit of a delay, so we'll see. Put your hand up. Put your hand up. Put your hand up. This has been great. Great conversation, though. Really, really good.
I'm gonna grab Paula. So
you gonna grab Paula? Okay.
Paula,
okay.
what I need you to do is to go on Instagram right now and follow me. My handle is right there. And then once you follow me, I want you to send me a DM, okay?
Okay.
I'll need your address so I can send your book. So that is Paula
DeBose Johnson.
Paula DeBose Johnson.
Yep.
All right. Oh, Paula, you're on Facebook. No worries. So on Facebook, I am Fanike-Kiara Young. And so if you send me a DM or you can do it on Instagram, either one, and then just get me your info and that way I can send your book out. I'm going to write your name down.
Nice.
All right. Perfection. All right.
Paula is one of my sister friends and actually is my neighbor.
Hi, Paula. All right, Nicole.
All right. Cool. Yeah. Cool. All right. I'm putting something in the comments. She will see. All right, good deal. So our next guest is Sister Nzinga. Welcome. Yay! Welcome.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
We can. How you doing?
I'm having a little bit of drainage allergies, so my already scratchy voice is even more ragged, but I'm here. I'm feeling great.
Oh, good. Glad to have you. So tell the viewers a little bit about yourself. Where you are, what you do, who you are.
Yeah, who I am, what I do, what I am.
Yes,
so I am a I would say like social activist and entrepreneur, and I work to solve the world's issues through business endeavors. I'm also a healer and a lifestyle coach and a business strategist and an educator. So those are all the things. So in my day, I might do 1 to 4 of those things on any given day. They all feed me and make me happy. So yeah, that's what I do.
Nice. Well, we are so glad you are here. We have been talking about the book. We're having a party. Listen, we got our wine.
I love it.
Having a party, okay?
I'm this one. I'm this
one. That's fine. Listen. Water was turned into wine, so we good. You in the house. So talk to us about this experience of telling Dr. Fanike your story.
So I've actually also known Dr. Fanike for a really long amount of time. So she kind of lived the unfolding of my trauma with me as I experienced it. And then to have her interview me about it was an experience in and of itself. And it was around like a sexual abuse, and it was around the shame of it and the ramifications of it. Because I think the obvious, I would say, like, what comes from that is really obvious, right? You get all the things closed off, intimacy issues, but it's in the small ways that all relationships are impacted and affected, from your parent relationships to your relationship with your child, that I don't know if we talk about as much. Because I don't even know if you even trust your instincts the same way, if you trust your gut the same way. And even though you consciously know it's not your fault, there's a subconscious level that wonders what you could have done differently. So it haunts you, and nobody wants to live their life haunted. So that was just kind of like my catapult into healing. I actually had a priest tell me almost 20 years ago that I had to get it off of me or it would actually cause cancer in my body. The way I was holding it. Emotions cause all kind of things in your body. And many of us believe that before you're physically sick, you're emotionally, spiritually sick. And then it manifests in a physical way. And so if we believe that and subscribe to that, then we also have to change emotional and spiritual stuff if we want to impact the physical. And I tell people that is not to simplify. If you have this, that means you're dealing with that. It's not really that kind of linear.
Right.
These are layered. Things are really layered. You could be predisposed to something. There's family, there's genetic history, but you can unlock genetic coding based on your emotional state and your environment. And I was unlocking all kind of stuff, from diabetes to high blood pressure, and it was from trauma. And then it's trauma and then not really knowing how to deal with the trauma. But I mean, you feel like, well, I'm not her. Well, I'm not her neither. I mean, I'm not an angry Black woman. I mean, I'm not mad at men. You know, you're not them, but then who are you? And you don't really know how yours manifests. And you really don't know until somebody rubs on it. And then when you observe your response, almost like you're out of body watching yourself, you're like, well, what happened there, girl? What's wrong with you? That's what would typically happen. I would watch me respond some way, and I'd be like, you need help. Like, what's wrong with you? It was actually a teacher. I was at Georgia State University, and she was finishing her doctorate at UGA, and we were in class. And I do these cycles of weight gain. You know, I get big, I'll lose weight, I get big. And she said, you know, you were intentionally doing what you think makes yourself not look attractive to turn people off. Because for you don't find yourself attractive when you have weight on you. And so you do that to not receive catcalls and to not receive the attention. And I was like, what? You don't even know me. You're just my teacher. You know, she was my speech teacher. And I was like, what does that have to do with speech? And she was like, it has everything to do with it. It's your comfort level. It's the way you present yourself. I hold my body different when I have weight. And I had this thing with weight. I mean, now I have weight, but I ain't got a thing with it. I'm like, that's where we are today. But before I used to be like, why am I here? What diet plan can I do? And all the money and all the shakes and all the things that I've purchased over the years. And she connected it straight to that trauma. And she was like, girl, you trying to make yourself ugly in your eyes so that you could be ugly, so that it doesn't happen. You're trying to control the narrative.
Oh, that is, well, that is so powerful.
Right? She was just a speech. I don't say just, but I mean, she was my speech teacher. A public speaking. Let me stop saying speech. Public speaking teacher. And stressed because the computer shut down and her whole dissertation was gone. And all her stress is while she was telling me, I don't know, but we had a relationship, which is why representation matters in higher education. But that's another topic. And she touched me and I went straight to therapy.
Wow.
And I was so grateful. Best decision I ever made. So anybody who's talking about therapy or someone's trauma, I'm like, yeah, talk to me. You know, I can definitely share. Do it and keep doing it. Because I think Rashida mentioned this. It comes up. I mean, you never fix yourself. I don't know any human that's whole. I think when you become whole, you can move on, right? So we're still here. We're still working on it. All works in progress. So
indeed,
it comes up. And when it comes up, you kind of increase your sensitivity so it doesn't go as far as it did before. So before, maybe you start yelling, screaming, shouting, or you cry and ball up, which was my thing. It was to close off and ball up and cry. And after an interaction, I don't know if this is PG-13 conversation, so I'll just say after sexual interaction, it would be like, you can't leave. You have to touch me, you have to hug me. And then I would ball up. And then I'd be like, what is that, girl? You act like you've been touched. You know what I mean? That's what I was saying to myself. Like, what are you doing? And then I was like, you have. And go get help. It ain't got to be a thing. Go get help. And I wasn't really into the stigma of it. I just was thinking, I'm good.
Right.
I don't need help. I'm good. I can logically see it and I could justify it and I could talk through it. And I knew all the words and all the terms. And of course, we're hired, educated people. So we have all the degrees, but none of that fixes your stuff. It just gives you the words to put to it, but it can't fix it. There's just no way. You have to do the work. There's no way around it.
So I can truly appreciate the realness of the things that you were saying, because I can absolutely see that playing out in our minds, right? We're educated. We're okay. And also that's her. That's not me.
Yeah, she crazy.
I was a therapist and was like, yeah, so I'm a therapist. So why do I need to go get help? Because I'm a therapist. And then I was like, oh, you know what? I may need to go see another therapist. I can't therapize this.
It's true. I mean, I think the gift is being studied and being a therapist or being a healer because you
Mhm.
get to see yourself.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's ugly sometimes.
Yeah.
You're like, ooh, that's me.
So Kiana asked a question earlier that I'm going to pose to you as well. And she said, "Is it hard to break chains with people who may be responsible for your trauma?"
You know what? I may have the unpopular opinion, but I don't find it hard. As
Okay.
you work through the trauma, actually, it becomes comical and almost enjoyable. When you see them again, you're like, you tried it. You almost took me out. You
Mm,
didn't win. I actually did see the guy who caused it maybe 5 years ago and in Jamaica. And he called me out to the water and I was like, what do you want? I mean, I can't even imagine what you need to say to me. And he said, I always knew you would be great. That's what he said to me. And I was like, I'm gonna go back and swim. If you see the Patty Man walk back down the beach, let me know. Cause I don't, I mean, me and you, I don't even, what? Like, what do you, but I went back in the water laughing to myself, like, you always thought I was gonna be great. Really? I mean, at what stage did you think that? You know what I mean, but you, it wasn't hard at all. I mean, I could forget his name if I felt like it. I only remember it because I think my story has impact for other people, but
mhm,
it doesn't resonate the same way. I'm not holding on to it. I don't know dates. I don't. None of the event sits with me the same way.
mhm,
It's embedded itself in other parts of my personality, but it's not present. It's not tender to the touch. So I think you desensitize these trauma points.
mhm,
And I call trauma like grooves on a record. And when something familiar happens, you default to that groove, right? And then
mm,
your needle drops into it and you go right back into your trauma response. So your mom yelled, you gonna yell at your kid. You hear your child playing and they're yelling, and you're like, actually, I didn't like the way that felt as a child. Why am I doing the same behavior? But you really don't know what else to do.
mhm.
Your child is bad as hell. And you don't I mean, you're
Talking
just
about my
like,
baby.
if I don't yell, what do I do? So your response is also all you know. But you also know you want something different. So you have to like iron that groove out. So I
Mhm,
find it, and then you just laugh at your old self, especially when you see it. And you're like, that was me. I used to be her. And you have a lot of compassion. So I don't,
mhm.
yeah,
Yes.
I just, I, di- he was so not important to me anymore. I actually felt pity and compassion for him. I actually
Mm,
felt bad for him that you played yourself and here you are. And that's what you felt the need to say to me. And you have to hold that. And
mm,
I mean, I wish you the best, but that ain't for me to hold anymore.
mhm,
So I see that Ranice, she said time heals all. So I want
mhm.
to address that
Okay.
because I actually have a theory. And my theory is that time does not heal all
Mm,
wounds. My theory is that it's the work that we do during the time that heals
mm,
the wounds. Because if I just sat back, right, and a lot of my trauma happened in childhood, and then, almost 30 years later, I was still dealing with the side effects of that trauma. So, and that's what I was doing. I was kind of letting time pass, thinking, oh yeah, it's gonna work itself out, right? But it wasn't really until I started doing the work. And so I wanted Zing to touch on that, if she could real quick.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think time can exacerbate all wounds because the more people
mm,
keep pushing that pressure point, the more you keep practicing the trauma response.
Mhm.
I agree with Ranice and Dr. Fanike. I think is spot on. Pointed time doing the work heals all wounds 100%. But I mean, I think of it also like Neosporin and some shea butter. You can have a wound and not putting it on that thing and it just looks like a wound after 20
mm,
years,
mhm.
or you could really rub something on it every day and in 20 years you're like, oh my god, I even forgot I had that cut.
Yeah.
You can do something and it can look really different or you cannot. The challenge is, I think a lot of people do all the things and it doesn't resonate on a deeper level, which is why I
Mhm,
learned meditation.
mhm,
Um, actually, got level 1 as a Reiki healer, which I actually use mostly on me and my son for allergies, which is interesting. Has been very helpful for my own process. Yeah, very, and my
I
son.
creamed her, so I'm like, yay.
Oh, nice.
Yes, very nice. Very helpful, actually, for family, which I think is why we also become healers, right? Because we want to heal ourselves and our families first. But I think that every morning I meditate. I call it meditate. I didn't make up that word, so let me not. But I meditate. I just lay still in the bed, and my son is doing all the things, and I'm like, "Ooh, don't you want to get on your iPad and get a granola bar?" Okay, I bought myself 7 minutes, and I kind of imagine the day, and I see in my body. I do a body scan, another thing from Reiki, to see what's talking to me. And then when I feel like, "Ooh, something is there, I should pay attention to it, give it some kind of energy." I do that. So I take a moment to myself in the morning and then I take it at night. It is non-negotiable for me. And that has helped. Transcendental meditation has helped. I went to Sadhguru's training sessions and his yoga classes. That was very helpful. I travel. That has been very spiritual for me because you interact with people. And I think when we were in India, that was one of my most profound experiences being at the river. I think it was the Ganges River, and seeing the people there perform rituals that we see in Ghana and realize, and then in Brazil and in Cuba, and realize in this world we're all the same. Like we're all here doing the work, and it makes you feel not important but very meaningful at the same time. So I think traveling actually was a part of my healing plan.
I was gonna say, just side note. So Nzinga and I have like been to all these places together.
Okay.
And so a lot of, and that's why I said one of the dopest things about this is a lot of the women that I interviewed met me when I had, I was deep in my trauma and they were deep in theirs. And so over the years, we've done things with one another to help to not only heal each other, but also we've been able to witness the healing and then learn from one another. Because she tells me, hey, I'm doing such and such. I'm like, great, I'm doing that too, and vice versa. Then I can share with Sakari the same way. And so, I love that. I think for me, my relationships and the people that I've been, I've had the pleasure of being around has really, really helped me to move forward because we're in spaces where they can say to me, Kiara or Fanike, you need to work on, such and such, including my husband. Hey, I think you need to work on this, and it may hurt. It stings, initially it's like, oh, I need to work on something. But then it's like, you know what? You might be right. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and work on that. So I think that that's been really helpful to have those authentic relationships where you have, and so that's super important. Like when it comes to you healing, you have to have people around you that help you to facilitate your healing process and to not, be people that kind of they're comfortable in you being the person that you were, so they try to keep you there. And I think about, I just watched my interview again. I watched it a couple times, but Jay-Z is like hands down one of my favorite rappers. And so like he talks about right. Like, but even seeing his evolution. So I was watching his interview recently. He said, people talk about, oh, you've changed. And he's like, well, Dad, what did you want me to do? What did you did you expect me to just, stay the same person? And this is, I think about, the people that, I grew up with in, Brooklyn, and, when we were younger and we were, on the block and hanging out and on the corner, and that was cool. But when I go back to Brooklyn now, I can't be on the corner. Like I got things to do, that's not my life. That's not my reality. And if you can't get with that, then, I'm sorry, but it is what it is. So I think having people around you that you grow with, and they're in a space of growth. And so every time you speak, there's pouring in is extremely important. Extremely, not just depleting, but pouring into you is extremely, extremely important. So you just made me think about that, Zing. When you talked about, especially India. India was so insane. Like, and my sister, who's actually in the house, she's at the house party. We went with her on a whim. She had a business trip, and we were like, "Oh, you going to India? We want to go." So like we crammed up in her hotel room.
Wow.
And slept there. But it was life changing because, of course, we had no clue, and it was one of the most, I think, spiritually impacting experiences for both of us. Being in India, and just I can stay on that forever, and all of that. We were just talking about that the other day. So I just wanted to say that little piece.
I I know. I'm sorry, Nicole. I know I'm over time. I just
Yes.
wanted to say, Dr. Fanike touched on something. I just want to say the word. I think when you have time and you build a consistent network of people and you grow with them, that there's a sense of safety. And I
Mhm.
think to heal, you have to feel safe, right? So you have your basic needs, but I think emotional stability counts as a basic need, like food, water,
Mhm.
shelter. And when you feel safe, there's so many things you can do. If you just imagine if you plant a plant in the right soil in the right environment, they can really bloom. So I just think that networks create safety nets where you can fail and you can laugh at the failure, or you could be like, "You just bugged out yesterday. You good?" And the
Mhm.
person could be like, "I think I'm a little hormonal. I think I might need to go back to therapy." And you all can laugh, and it can stay right there. So I just think safety is important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think having those accountability partners in your life is so important. I mean, you can have friends, but they might not be able to hold space for you in that way,
Mm.
in terms of having those kind of what I would consider tough conversations. And so, my mindset is this person has my best interest at heart. So if they're telling me something that I might need to check, they're trying to make me a better person, right? So that's where we need to come from in holding space for folks in that way. But I think that's great. That's a very, very important point. So thank you both for sharing that. And I need to go on one of these trips. Listen, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Let's make it happen.
It just kind of happens. It's we just have these moments. We just have these
Yeah.
moments. Like one time I was in China, because I've been how many times? I think I've been twice or three
You were
times.
3 times, uh-huh.
I've been 3 times. So I was in China and Zing's like, "Hey, I'm moving to China." And I was like there, like presenting like to some doctors or something,
Yeah.
like and training them. And she's like, "I'm moving to China." And I was like, "Great, when are you coming?" And she's like, "Such and such days." And I'm like, "Great, I'm supposed to leave, but let me see if I can extend my trip." And the people that's
Wow.
asking me, let me see if they'll pay for it. And they did. So I like extended my trip and she moved there and we were like, okay, let's figure out China and get her situated. And then I was able to
Right.
come back to the United. So it just kind of happens. Like we have very
Yeah.
serendipitous moments where, it's like
That's
our lives
beautiful.
just kind of cross. It's weird. Like, and
Yeah.
then we have moments where like we don't talk a lot. And then we have
Yeah.
moments where like, we're talking all the time. But when
Mhm.
we come back, it's like, oh, what have you been doing? Oh,
Right.
I'm doing the same thing. Oh,
You just
great. Like,
pick up where you left off. Pick
Yeah.
up where you left off for
And
sure.
then we both have sons. And so then we have even done international trips with
yeah.
our sons. So just to imagine the lineage and legacy of that.
Mhm.
You continue it with family. It's
Awesome.
a beautiful thing.
Awesome.
Mhm,
Awesome.
mhm.
All right. Well, we have enjoyed our time with you in Zinga.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you for your contribution to the book too.
Oh,
All
that was
right.
the part.
Yes. And let's keep this party going.
Let's keep it
Okay.
going. Keep it going. Keep it
Listen.
going.
Keep it going.
Yes.
Keep it going. All right, Nzinga.
All
Okay.
Thank
right.
See
you.
Thank
you
you,
all
Zane.
later.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Bye, darling. I want to shout out somebody real quick. My niece, she's
Okay.
named after me, and so you'll see her in the comments. Little Fanike, that's her. She's 9,
So I
and so
don't see her as little Fanike.
she's under Kiana Fox. She's under my sister.
Okay, got it.
Commenting Little Fanike. Yeah, that's my niece. She's
Okay,
9 years old.
gotcha. Okay,
So I just
nice.
want to shout her out for being so interactive and
Okay,
contributing.
cool. Yeah, she has been putting little Fanike in there. So good deal. All right. Yes, yes, yes. All right. So did we have another giveaway or no?
We have, oh yeah, let's do it. And then we have one more person, right?
Yes, we do. And she's waiting
um,
so patiently. Thank you so
no
much.
worries. I will all this Manaya, Aldys.
Let me see if I can find. Is this one of yours or?
Yeah, so
Oh, okay.
so she commented, and so I want to gift her with a package. And
Okay.
so what that package comes with is a book, a workbook, and a free consultation with me um,
Okay.
to sit down and see if I could possibly help with clearing some of those energy blocks that
Okay.
you may
Put
be experiencing.
spell the name again one more time.
No worries. Aldys
Mhm.
space capital M as in Mary, INAYA.
Mhm. A-Y-A. Okay. All right. I will indicate you're a winner. We'll put it up. Give me just a moment.
Good.
Go down. All right, here we go. Did I do
All
that
right.
right? Okay, cool.
Perfect.
Cool. Wonderful. All right.
The time is just going by so fast.
I know.
Good.
So, last but definitely not least, we have Sister Omi. Welcome. Yay.
Hello.
Hi, beautiful. I love the hair.
Thank you, my love. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I was just sitting here listening to Zing, like co-signing, like, yep, yeah.
All the things. Well, welcome, Omi.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, who you are, where you at.
Yes, my name is Dr. Shate, Omi Sade Richardson. Everyone calls me Omi. That's why it's Omi on screen. I am a college professor. I am a change facilitator. I'm a growth facilitator. I'm a healer. I run a girls' rites of passage or a rites of passage group with a number of people. And I'm a mother of two. And the work that I do is around optimal development from conception to adulthood. I also teach African diaspora in the world, where we resituate African people in the conversation of history, where history has been kind of mistold. I also created a class based on the work of Asa Hilliard called Psychology of the Inner City Child, where we deal with the trauma that children experience in those spaces and how to mitigate it so that we can teach them.
Nice.
And multicultural education, where I make pre-service teachers challenge all their biases against all the isms so that they are not harming or traumatizing their children in the classroom. And I'm also an author as well. So I wrote a book, Tomorrow's Super Teacher.
Nice.
Talks about how to change teacher education so that if we want to change education in the United States, which is harmful and lacking, like we have to change it from at the base level, which is how we train our teachers.
I love it. Well, definitely. Look, you might have to come back on the show and talk about this book.
Yes.
All right. So tell me about your experience with the book in terms of telling Dr. Fanike, your story.
So, what's interesting is, she lived it with me. And Zinga lived it with me. It was a very community blown up situation. So it wasn't, telling her my story wasn't difficult because, they were there. So I guess it was just kind of a recounting and putting my feelings and all that stuff into it. I think what was more difficult, which was interesting, is when I read the chapter and I saw it in print and I was like, oh, this is a lot. And I was like, dude, that happened to you. So,
right.
Like I even said, I was like, I need to talk to you about the chapter. Like I just read it. I was just like, whoa. So it was interesting to see it in print. So, talking about it, of course, was not difficult because, again, I've known Dr. Fanike for a long time, and she literally lived this process with me, and Zinga lived this process with me. So
cool.
They saw it all firsthand, which is how I ended up in the book.
Gotcha. So real time, huh?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm going to ask you some of the same questions because I really like Kiana's question about, is it hard to break chains with people who may be responsible for your trauma?
So in my situation, it was a little different because I wasn't able to. Like I wanted to. Like I really, after it happened, I literally left and went to Cali for a month. And Nzinga, God bless her, taught all of my classes for me so that I could just have a moment to breathe. But I had to come back because that is the father of my child. So I couldn't break chains with him. And then she was very much a fixture in the community. And like all the people who were close to me had a connection with her. So I was never able to completely break away. I literally had to do my healing in the space where I still had to see them, where I still had to, and I had to do it all for me and on my terms because I never received apologies. So it wasn't based on them, like, being sorry or, I can't, what's the word I'm looking for? It wasn't based
remorseful.
Yes, it wasn't based on them being remorseful because there was no remorse. So it was literally about, I have to heal for me and for, my daughters.
Gotcha.
So,
Gotcha. No.
So it was difficult because I couldn't.
So, but I want to flesh that out a little bit. So I believe that the whatever closure, if you will, is for you, right? Whether you
Yes.
are able to, um, get that apology or what have you from the
Yes.
person, right?
Yes.
So talk
Yes.
talk a little bit about that.
And I think that's the hardest one, is when the person never acknowledges, how they've hurt you. So I literally had to kind of go inside myself, and I did, therapy. I did a lot of spiritual work. I did a lot of conversations with my sisters, because we have intentional friendships and relationships. And so I had to literally kind of rebuild myself up. And then all those things that come at you, like, what's wrong with me? And trying to put it on myself, I had to really focus, inward, in order to bring all that outside of me. So it was difficult. But again, your healing is not based in anybody else. It's not based in how they come to you, what they say to you. It's literally based in your own emotional and physical and spiritual health. So it was, I'm going to be honest, it was one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do in my life. And people tell me all the time, like, oh my gosh, you're one of the most forgiving people I've ever met, right? How in the world did you do it? There was a lot of tears. There was a lot of tears. And there was a lot of, conversation that I had to have with myself, and that I had to have with, therapists and my godmother and elders and my sisters, to get me to okay. But it literally, it was difficult. And also, it wasn't a one and done, like Nzinga said, you're always kind of in the process of healing. Like, one of my mentors said, we're always in the process of being where we are and becoming more better, right? So as you're going through the process, there's going to be times where it cycles back, and you're going to feel yourself angry again. And it's like, okay, let me feel where this is coming from, and let me kind of get it out of my spirit, because it's not for me. It's not mine to hold. And if I was still sitting here angry and hurt, and they're all frolicking because they're not thinking about me, they're living their lives, I had to be able to do that for me and get it outside of me.
So
Love it.
One thing I will say is, and we're kind of hearing that recurring theme as we're talking to all of the different ladies, the work, and that's a part of being an active worker.
Yes.
There's work. And the thing is that, people come to me and they're like, oh, pretty much, I want you to fix whatever's going on. And I'm like, great. So I can assist, but you have to do the work, and the work doesn't stop when you stop working with me. The work has to continue even when we're not together. And so it's constant work, and I say this constantly, I'm married now, love my husband, right? Absolutely love and appreciate him and adore him. Like so many different parts of that I don't have, that I wish I had, but he has such a purity to him that I love.
Yeah.
But I have trauma, I mean, I have trauma. And the reality of the situation is, I have to constantly, talk to myself. I have to constantly, because the trauma part of me, and we have to be clear, right? It's there because it's really trying to protect you from being hurt, right? So you have those memories, you have those, those things that are triggered by senses, by the things people say, by the things that we see, those things are triggered to try to actually protect you from being hurt again. But what it actually winds up doing is making you paranoid, making you feel like, oh my gosh, this person's going to hurt me. Oh my gosh, it is going to happen again. And so, I have to then always counteract mentally, and I used to bring it to him. And until he was like, yo, like I'm not doing anything. Like, like, I don't give you a reason to feel like I'm not doing anything. Right. And so I had to like check myself now, like, okay, it's not him, it's your stuff. So it's a constant work that has to take place. And the other thing that I wanted to say is, Omi talked about forgiveness. So I want to also be clear, because Omi has a child with the person, that caused her trauma. But and Omi will agree with me on this. It's okay to say, F off, and not and not, be like, okay, well, I'm going to forgive to the point where I can be around that person. That's
no. Yes, let me be clear.
Sometimes you have to do that, as well. So I want her to touch on that as well.
Yeah, so let me be clear on what my forgiveness looks like. Okay. So I for a while, so when I say I had to forgive, it is because for my daughter looking at us, like we are her model of what relationship and relating and communicating looks like. So I had to forgive to a point where when I see him, I didn't see red, because for a while all I saw was red, right? So I had to for about maybe a year, I made sure that I never kept her from him, but he would have to go through other people to get her, so I could have a moment, so I could have my space. We had, people assisting in that communication so that I could breathe and so that I could heal. And, with her, like, she couldn't be in my presence for a good 2 years. Like if anybody was planning anything, they were very clear that I wasn't going to be there if she was there, because I needed a moment before I stopped seeing red again. So forgiveness to me didn't look like, forgiving him and we stayed together. Oh no. When I found out, I kicked, I'm like, get out of the house that day. And we were never together ever again, because I was very clear. And I was very clear with him that if you could do something like this to me, not just cheat, because I was like, especially when I was going through medically, I could understand that to a certain extent. And maybe that's something that I could have forgiven and stayed with. But you chose somebody this close to me. You chose to do it in this way. You chose to be this type of deceitful. You don't like me. And I'm not going to stay with someone who does not like me. Right. And not for my daughter and for myself, because she can't see that. She can't live that. I don't want that to be her story, and for her to think that that is, that's okay for someone to do. So forgiveness didn't look like, we're good, come on back, we're going to stay together. Not at all. We took our whole space. And I also like what Dr. Fanike just said too. When we have those trauma responses, sometimes, we're so hardened that we're like, what is wrong with you? That's nothing. Do you know what I've been through? Mm-hmm. Like, something that somebody gets angst over, or like they get upset over, it's like, that's small, whatever. And, we have to realize those things and kind of pull it back and like, oh, wait a minute, this is big to you. Okay, let me breathe, because that is my trauma response. And that's my trauma armor, like re-engaging itself. Mm-hmm. But I also had to tell myself early on, like, literally, I had this conversation within the weekend of this happening, that what he did was what he did. That is not all men. Mm-hmm. That will not be, I'm not going to throw up armor like, because all men do X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. Not at all. That is what he chose to do. That was in his character to do. But that does not mean that the next man who comes along, or even the one after that, even if he hurts me too, I'm going to open myself back up, because I owe that to me. Mm-hmm. My spirit needs to feel that love and not be like on eggshells and like, you got to stay at this certain distance because you're going to hurt me like he did.
Yes, this is so good. I mean, your trauma armor, hadn't heard that term before, but I could absolutely see that. And, just what you're saying around not having that armor on for future relationships. You know what I'm saying? It's case by case.
Yes.
So I love that. I love that. So we got a question. Hold on. Ronice, is closure a real thing?
I think it is for some people. I recently had a conversation with somebody who, we had, something happened a long time ago. And, we were in a relationship, and I was like, do you want to take this relationship to the next level? And the person was like, no. I was like, you sure? Person said, yes. I said, okay. So I went into the process of pushing that out of my spirit and getting over it. But when I came back into the country, that person was like, hey, and I'm like, hey, they're like, what about us? And I'm like, wait, but you said you didn't want to be with me. Like, I've moved on. Right. Mm-hmm. So I never gave that person the opportunity to talk to me at that time, because I'm like, you clearly made your choice. We talked maybe 10 years after that happened. Mm-hmm. And, because he felt like he needed to say everything he needed to say. I'm like, okay, say how you felt. That's fine. And he finally got closure for him. Mm-hmm. For me, I had my closure. You said you did not want to be in a relationship. I'm good. Right. So closure can be a thing when you're having a real conversation and real communication with somebody. Mm-hmm. But from this situation that's in the book, there was never any closure at all, because they chose not to be accountable to the community or to me. Mm-hmm. And they went out and tried to defame my character in order to make what they did look better.
Mhm.
So there was no closure. There were many friendships that I lost over this because people who came back with me to me with the gossip, I was like, thank you for revealing yourself. I'm clear that you're not for me. And that was a relationship that had to dissolve. So that was a way that, I cut connections with people that were a part of the trauma, right?
Okay.
But the people who had my back, Dr. Fanike is still here and Zinga's still here. Like all these people are still here because they had my back and they were clear on who I am and my character. And I think I can say this, and anybody else who's listening who was a part of the community, because this was a very public thing to happen to. So that was probably the hardest part, because I wasn't able to cry in private. I had people calling me to ask me about it. So it was a very public thing. Like my broken heart was shattered in pieces in front of everybody. I'm trying to remember what I had a whole point that was connected to that. I kind of got lost in the point of what I was saying. What was I saying?
It's okay. We were talking about closure being a real thing. And
yes. So there was, there was never any closure from that because they chose to kind of go that direction. So the closure had to come from me. And I had to get to the point where I could drive past that park and not feel a thing. The point to where I could see him or see her and not feel, this the physical trauma responses in my body where I couldn't breathe, and a big part of it was really learning how to breathe through it, like let myself cry, let myself feel the feelings. Fanike put it in the book in terms of my godmother's conversation with me when I went to California, and she was like, I'm gonna give you a month to cry and to feel your feelings, right? And that doesn't mean that you stop feeling your feelings after that month, but after that month we're going to focus on forgiving for your spirit, because your spirit still needs to be light. Right. So she also talks about, like, usually when we talk about breathing, people think you take in one long deep breath and then you let that one long deep breath out. And she said that actually kind of feeds our trauma response, our fight or flight response. But to breathe in, two like shorter ones, and then like a long 4 count out. I would have to do that when I would feel like I would see them and realize I'm not breathing. Okay, I need to breathe. And that's what helped me to get to the point where I could talk about this without tears. Because it was a lot. It devastated me. I did not think that. I was like, it was too painful to just exist at that time. I was like, is this gonna take me out? Like, this is a lot.
Right.
So, but to get to the point where I can smile and laugh and talk about it, and the growth in it, I say it now. I'm happy I'm no longer in that relationship. Did I want it to come about that way? Absolutely no. I would not want to go through that pain again. But the growth of where I am now, the Omi of that time was a totally different person. And I feel like that's what I was saying. Anybody who might be watching now, who was a part of that public spectacle, they can say that I dealt with the whole thing with integrity, because never once did I talk about her outside of the context of what she did or call her out of her name. Never once. And I have secrets on them both that I could have put out there, and I still could put out there. But never once did I choose to do that, because I held on to my integrity and my character through the whole thing. So I would engage. Yes, she did this. These are the things she said about me in the context of this, but I didn't air any of her stuff out then, and I wouldn't do it now.
So Omi, just as a point of reference, tell me about the distance between the incident and now. Like, what's the time frame roughly?
10 years.
Okay.
Yes, my daughter was 3 and she's now 13. So everything came out 10 years ago.
And to get all of the details, you gotta get the book.
That's right. You gotta get the book.
I was reading the story like,
you gotta get the book.
DrFanike.com.
Grab your book.
Yes.
Yes.
You gotta get the book.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's a big piece of it. Don't lose yourself in the midst of the pain, because it would have been easy to step out of my character and this did this and this and this and tell everything. But it was important to me because I was clear that little girl was looking at me, and I want her to be able to use my behavior as a blueprint. Like I've seen mommy hold pain, but I've seen her do it with grace. She saw me. I did most of my crying away from her, but every now and then she might see a tear trickle down my face. You know what I mean? Because it was a very hard time. But to this day, she does not know what happened, because You know, why I didn't want to negatively impact her relationship with her father. Their relationship is their relationship, has nothing to do with me. And what he did to me, not to her. You know?
Yes. We got some. What was that? Rabbit ears.
My husband, he's taking pictures and.
Hey, hubby.
You could come on and say hi.
Hello there.
Yeah. Come on and say hi.
Greetings, greetings.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
That was so horrible.
Stop
I'm just
it.
forcing him to do it.
Mhm. Yes.
Thank you,
yes,
Omi,
yes.
so much for coming. Thank you. I so
Indeed.
appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. Thank you for
Yes.
having me.
Thank you, babe.
Yes. So, Omi, I'm
We gonna
serious
close
about you
this
coming
party
back to talk. So, I'll
Yes,
be
yes,
reaching
ma'am.
out.
I'm here. Let's do it.
All right.
Yes.
Good deal.
All right.
We
I'm getting
appreciate
a
you
call from
sharing.
guests.
For sure. Look, it's a twofer, right?
Yes.
Win. All right. Thank you, Omi. You take
Thanks,
care.
babe. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Love you.
Love you too.
Wow. This has been great.
I know we got so fast. I'm like,
it did. I am in the comments, or I'm trying to get my scrolling.
oh, we gotta do another giveaway.
We do have to do another giveaway. So I'm gonna let you pick it.
Oh, it's on me.
You pick it. And tell me again, folks can order from where?
So they can. So the book is available at all major retailers, but drfanike.com if you want to get a signed copy.
Okay.
From me. So if you want a signed copy, you want to go to drfanike.com. It's drfanike.com for your signed copy. You can also get it from Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Walmart. It's available at all of the major retailers. So, and you can get an ebook or paperback, either one. And I'm in the process of getting the hardcover and the audiobook together as well. So it's coming.
Nice.
So our next winner is her name on her Instagram name is Daya, but her name is Farida V. So it's FAREEDAH.
Wait, FAREEDAH.
V. That's her last name.
V is in Victor.
Yes.
I got it.
And so she will get a book.
Nice. All right. I'm going to put that up.
And so Farida, I just need your address. So DM me on Instagram or Facebook so I can have your address. So I can send your book.
Yes.
And you'll just find a copy.
All right. Nice. Wow. Oh, so many nuggets. So many nuggets.
I know, it was so great. It was so great.
Yeah, a lot of great things to think on, to reflect on, and yeah, this was good. I'm so glad we had the ladies on here to talk around, know, their experiences and how they are managing, how they are, doing that work. Ooh, I think one of the most profound things that you talked about is time not healing. But it's the work that you do during the time that does the healing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
People, they think that, it will just go away. And it doesn't. I tried it. Trust me, I tried it. And, a lot of, like I said, my trauma happened in childhood, 6 years old. And here I was around 33, 34, still dealing with a lot of that, and still, to this day, it's not, of course, as intense, but, still, was dealing with almost 30 years later. So time, unfortunately, does not, just take it away. And if it did, that would be wonderful. We all would be walking around, great. It would, but we're not, that's just the reality of the situation. So you actually have to do work during the time. And so that's where being an active worker even comes from is, and it doesn't have to be huge things every day, but it has to be something, those meditations, those yoga, that going to therapy. For me, it was, going to boxing. And then I, in the program now where that I work with the women that I work with, we work from an integrative model. So it's me, tackling the break. So everything's about, again, shifting those energy blocks. And so
Mhm.
it has to be a physical component, an energetic component, a mental health component. There has to be, a spiritual component. There's so many different parts that have to exist at the same time. And so that work has to be done at the same time.
Mhm. We having a party.
We having a party. Here comes my biggest fan right here.
Uh-huh.
Fan right here.
Hi.
You see it?
How are you?
I'm on the TV. You see me on the TV? Oh, okay.
Oh my goodness.
You want to go see me on the TV?
Sweet.
Okay, go see me more on the TV. Go.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, you gotta go. Well, you gotta go see you now. Run and see. Run. Go.
How
So,
precious.
but yeah, it's about, doing the active work and
Mhm.
constantly, like I'm constantly assessing, constantly checking myself. When something
Yeah.
happens, I don't look outward first. I try to look inward first. Hey, is
Mhm.
that you? Is that a
Mhm.
part of your trauma responses? And it
Mhm.
builds emotional intelligence, because it's like I'm clear
Mhm.
that I have stuff, So am I operating out of that stuff? Was my response from that place? Was it out of, that trauma? And I think when we have that self-awareness, because we're doing the
Mhm.
work, right? Even to gain the self-awareness, it requires you to do work.
It
And
does.
it's a hard place to be, because
Mhm.
it's you saying, you know what, I got some stuff, and this stuff impacts the way I show up in my relationships, my business, how it shows up, how I show up with myself. The things I say to myself, those negative thoughts, those limiting beliefs, the way that I respond to other people, the way, my moods, quote unquote, all of that stuff can a lot of times is rooted in, pain,
Mhm.
things that have happened to us. And so that's what trauma responses are. You're responding as a side effect of the trauma that you've experienced. And so when we have that self-awareness, then we can say, this is not that person. Okay, this is me. My bad. I apologize.
Right.
I'm so sorry. It's my stuff.
Mhm.
My bad. I'm working on it. I'm a work in progress.
Mhm.
And being
Mhm.
okay with being a work in progress. And for a long time, I wasn't okay with that, because I felt like I had to be the person that, was strong and taking care of everybody else and make sure everybody else is okay. And,
Mhm.
and not focusing on my own healing. And
Yeah.
when I reached that place where I became okay with the fact that, you know what, you don't have to be strong, like, and it's
Yeah.
okay to be strong.
Mhm.
It doesn't take away from who you are. And I think, to tie it all back in, you are not what you do, what you can do for other people.
Mm.
That's not your worth. Your worth is not tied to what you can do for other people.
Mhm.
Your worth is tied to you just being a human and just existing. So you're worthy just because you're human and you exist.
Yes.
You're
Yes.
worthy outside of what you can do for other people and how you can show
Mhm.
others. And when I reached that point and I was able to say, I don't want to do for other people anymore. I had a whole year and a half of solace where I just focused on me. I bought my house and I didn't have a guest room. I didn't have a guest space for a long time.
Mhm.
I had 3 bedrooms, my bedroom where I slept, my office, and my workout room. And I did it on purpose because I wanted it to be my space. And I didn't want, to continue that cycle of doing things from a place of, am I taking care of other people? And
Right.
I had to start drawing those boundaries,
Mhm.
really, really, really focus in on myself and my healing. And when I did that, and I became so intentional about who I was around, who I allowed around me,
Mhm.
all of those things, what I ate, everything. I was working. I was going to the gym 4 days a week for about 2 hours.
Mm.
I set my schedule in a certain way. I
Mhm.
hired a chef who was making my meals.
Okay.
I could eat a certain way, but I became so intentional for a reason. And it didn't matter if the people around me didn't understand. And I
Mhm.
didn't really feel like I had to explain it because I was so immersed. I became so immersed in my healing. And
Mm.
that year and a half was so difficult for me. But out of it came a recognition of who I was,
Yeah.
what I wanted, what I needed, what was best for me. And I manifested my husband,
Mm-hmm.
my business. I
Yes.
manifested prosperity and abundance in so many different ways. My health was
Mm-hmm.
on point. My body was the way I wanted it to be. And there was so much, that came out of it. And it wasn't easy. It
Right.
wasn't easy,
Right.
but it was so worth it on the other side of it.
Indeed. No, that's a beautiful thing that you committed to yourself in that way. And again, that work is not easy, as you said,
Mm-hmm.
but it's so worth it. It's so worth it. You are so worth it. We are so worth it. But we
Mm-hmm.
gotta see ourselves as worth it and worthy.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Whoa. Boy, this is
I know. Like, let's keep going. Let's keep going.
I know. Well, is there anything that you want to share as we close out? Any final words or connection? This has been a great party. I have enjoyed talking with
Yes.
some of the women in the book and reading some of the book. Yeah. So looking forward to diving in more.
I would just say, one, thank you everyone for coming, for taking the time out of your day to come and listen. I hope it has been valuable. Go ahead and drop us some comments if it has been valuable, if you found anything meaningful out of this. Make sure that you're following myself, make sure that you're following Nicole. Definitely, I would say just take time for yourself every day. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be, I'm going to get a manicure and a pedicure and I have to go to the spa. It doesn't have to be any of that. Like some of the ladies mentioned, just taking that 5 minutes during the day to just start your day off and just focus with yourself. And, I try to do a 10-minute meditation every day and just taking those small pieces for yourself to help you to just get in tune with your higher self and just stay connected. And so, like I said, also just to help to shift some of those energy blocks that we have and we're carrying around and they're not getting better, because we're not doing the work and we're not taking the time for ourselves. So definitely feel free to DM me, reach out if you have any questions. If you're like, hey, I want to get started on this journey, don't know where to start, feel free to reach out. Yeah, I would love to hear from all of you. So just thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. So go get the book. We did have a few winners today. So winners, we need you to DM Fanike, Dr. Fanike, and give her your mailing address so she can get those books out to you. But for the rest of you, go buy the book. DrFanike.com. Go buy the book. Go buy the book. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for this work, this body of work, and the work that you do. Just helping us to be our better selves. So appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
All right, let's keep this party going.
Keep it going. My sister's gonna drink some water, so I'm gonna drink some water.
All right. And let's keep this conversation going. So you all continue to do the work, connect with a counselor or a therapist. We need to be having these conversations and talking through those things that are holding us back and doing some of the energy work as well. So, you can reach out to Dr. Fanike about all of those things that she does so wonderfully well. Somebody did ask me, I forgot to mention this one, and it was further up, whether or not you did virtual service.
I do. So I actually, a part of, again, my own healing and me setting out to live the life that I want, I just closed my practice.
Okay.
And so I no longer have an office. That was a big step for me. And so everything that I do now is remote.
Okay.
So yes, I can do distance Reiki and distance healing. So yep.
All right. Very good. So there it is. You got it. So reach out. All right. You all have a great rest of the day and thank you for being on. Peace.